Trump just told a one-legged coal miner to learn to code. And what he said on camera is going to expose the biggest lie he ever told. And I'm about to show you the most vicious contradiction in American politics. And it's going to destroy millions of lives. We're talking about the same coal miners Trump said would be miserable doing anything but mining. The same ones he promised to fight for. The same ones who voted for him 3 times. And now he's telling them they're not disabled enough, that they should just get desk jobs making little cell phones and things. That's a direct quote. Subscribe right now. I have receipts. I have Trump on video saying one thing about coal miners that is unbelievable, and then I'm going to show you what his administration is doing to them behind closed doors. This is betrayal on a scale you won't believe. Let me start off by telling you about Christopher Tincher. Christopher started working in a Kentucky coal mine when he was just a teenager in the 1980s. When the mines shut down, he scraped grills at Hardee's. He cleaned office buildings at night. He stocked shelves at Walmart. Eventually, he got a job at a wastewater treatment plant. He had to wade into sewage to fix equipment, raw sewage, feces, needles. That was his job. In 2017, some of that sewage got into his work boots, and it infected his foot all the way to the bone. And doctors had to cut off his leg below the knee so that way the infection wouldn't spread further. Christopher was now a manual laborer on one leg. He was 48 years old and Social Security denied him disability benefits. So you know what he did? He got a prosthetic leg and went back to work for 7 more years in constant pain. His other leg was almost always in a cast from infections and diabetic nerve damage. His eyesight was beginning to fail. This February, Christopher applied for disability again. He was desperate. He was in a wheelchair. He had to move in with his son's family because he couldn't afford rent. And this time, because he was 55, he finally qualified. $1,500 a month. Christopher is a 3-time Trump voter. And he got approved just in the nick of time because Trump is about to change the rules. And if Christopher had to apply today, right now, he'd be rejected. So right now, disability benefits get easier to qualify for when you hit 50. That's because the system recognizes reality. A 55-year-old coal miner with a destroyed back can't just suddenly become a computer programmer. But Trump's administration is rewriting the rules. They want to remove age as a factor completely, or raise it from 50 to 60. A senior Trump official actually said this, and I'm going to read the quote. The Trump administration does not think that simply being 50 years old is a disability. They're saying that in the internet age, there are more desk jobs available. So workers in their 50s with physical injuries don't need disability benefits anymore. They can just get a sedentary job. But wait, because I need you to see something Trump also said back in April. Pay very close attention to this one.
In the first campaign where Hillary Clinton was about 4 states too early, and she was talking about how bad coal was and how they were going to teach coal miners how to make widgets and gadgets and technology, which they didn't want to do. They want to mine. One thing I learned about the coal miners, that's what they want to do. You could give them a penthouse on Fifth Avenue and a different kind of a job, and they'd be unhappy. They want to mine coal. That's what they love to do. And she was going to put them in a high-tech industry where you make little cell phones and things. I don't know. Do you think he'd be good at that? I don't know. I wouldn't be. You don't want to be. And she was brutal about 3 weeks before, but then she had a problem. She went to West Virginia looking for votes, and that was a bad situation. You remember that? And there was a coal miner.
One thing I learned about coal miners, that's what they want you to do. You could give them a penthouse on Fifth Ave in a different kind of job, and they'd be unhappy. They'd want to mine coal. She was going to put them in a high-tech industry where you make little cell phones and things. Okay, we're going to stop right there. Trump just said that. Trump said coal miners don't want different jobs, that even if you gave them a penthouse and a desk job, they'd be unhappy, that they'd want to mine coals. He mocked the idea of retraining coal miners for high-tech industries. He made fun of it. Whoopsies. Excuse me. Trump said that they'd hate it, but now his administration is saying that 55-year-old disabled coal miners should just get tech jobs, should just adapt, should just learn new skills. So Which is it, Trump? Do coal miners only want to mine coal and be miserable doing anything else? Or should disabled coal miners who have destroyed their bodies just pivot into desk jobs? You can't have it both ways. Either you believe coal miners can't and shouldn't be expected to transition into different careers, which means they need disability support when their bodies break down from decades of mining, or you believe that they can transition into high-tech jobs seamlessly, which means you lied when you mocked retraining programs and promised to bring back coal jobs. And here's the thing Trump doesn't want you to know. States with high percentages of people receiving disability benefits, many of them are Trump voters. They will feel the sting if future eligibility is tightened. These changes would fall disproportionately on some of Trump's most loyal supporters in red states. Most affected would be 50 to 60-year-olds without a high school or college education, who have, for decades, toiled in physically grueling jobs, including coal mining, logging, factory work, and construction work. The 5 states where the highest populations of people who rely on these benefits are West Virginia, Arkansas, Kentucky, Mississippi, and Alabama, unlike New York, California, and others. These states do not have their own disability insurance programs for workers to turn to amid federal cuts. The truth is, Trump doesn't believe either thing. He doesn't care about coal miners at all. He just says whatever gets applause in that moment and whatever thought enters his little mind. When he's campaigning, coal miners are proud workers who only want to mine and could never do anything else. Real Americans who love their coal jobs. When he's cutting their benefits, they're lazy freeloaders who should just get desk jobs, who aren't really disabled, who are taking advantages of the system. It's the same coal miner, it's the same broken body, it's the same decades of back-breaking labor. But Trump describes them completely differently depending on what he wants. This is the con. This is how it all works. Trump used coal miners as props. He put on a hard hat and promised to save their jobs. He said he understood them, that he'd fight for them, that Democrats wanted to retrain them, but he knew they just wanted to mine. And now that he's president for the second time, he's making mines less safe while cutting their disability benefits that they've paid a lifetime into when mining destroys their bodies. Let me tell you what Trump actually did for coal miners once he got into office. And I'll start first with in 2013, after an explosion that killed 29 people in West Virginia in a mine with an egregious safety record, the Department of Labor created the Pattern of Violations rule. It allowed regulators to focus on mine operators who repeatedly put miners' lives at risk. Trump rolled it back. He's negotiating with the mining industry to weaken safety enforcement. And this is his Assistant Secretary of Labor for Mine Safety, who he used to be the chairman of the Ohio Coal Association and Kentucky Coal Association, the same industry groups that sued to block the safety overrule. He's now overseeing the settlement in that lawsuit. Trump also froze a rule that would require mining machinery to have proximity detection technology to prevent miners from being crushed or killed. The technology would have prevented 42 deaths and 179 injuries between 1984 and 2014. It would have saved at least 15 lives over the next decade. But mine operators said it cost too much. And Trump agreed that keeping miners safe was too expensive. In Kentucky, where coal jobs have declined by nearly 7%, Trump approved work requirements for Medicaid, making it harder for unemployed miners to get health care. And Trump made it easier for insurers in coal counties to cut coverage for opioid addiction treatments, even though coal mining leads to high opioid prescription rates and the epidemic is ravaging through these communities. So let's be really clear about Trump's record on coal miners. He made their workplaces less safe. He made it easier for them to be crushed by equipment. And he made it harder for them to get health care when they lose their jobs. He made it easier for insurers to deny addiction treatment. And now he's cutting their disability benefits when their bodies break down. He says they love mining so much that they'd be miserable in a penthouse or anything else. This is what Trump thinks of working people. He thinks we're useful for his photo ops, we're useful for votes, but when it actually comes to protecting the safety of the working class or their health care or ability to survive when their bodies give out, disposable. The Center on Budget and Policy Priorities says this move could cut eligibility by 20%, the largest cut in disability history. At least 830,000 people would lose eligibility, 1.5 million over the next decade. And the states hit hardest: West Virginia, Kentucky, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, all Trump states, all places where coal miners and factory workers and construction workers believed him when he said he'd fight for them. Research from the University of Chicago shows that disability benefits save people from bankruptcy and foreclosures and homelessness. When you lose eligibility, you don't just lose money, you lose access to Medicare. You lose health insurance right when you need it most. George Pimonte has worked on disability cases in the South for 30 years. He said they call it modernizing the program, but that's political speak. This is a matter of life and death. If these workers don't get their benefits, some of them are not even going to live to retirement. Christopher Tincher said, "I wish every day I could still work. Having to ask for help is hard, especially for men of my generation." His dad told him to work until the day he died. The cruelest part? The disability program is fully funded. It has its own trust fund that's solvent through the end of the century. Cutting benefits doesn't save Social Security retirement. It just forces disabled workers into early retirement without benefits or significantly reduced ones. Wealthy people who have never done manual labor deciding that working people are lazy. Russ Vought, Trump's budget director and Project 2025 architect, made disability cuts his #1 priority. The people making decisions about Christopher's life will never wade in sewage, will never lose a leg, and will keep working. They will never know what it's like to have your body give out from decades of labor. And Trump, the guy who inherited hundreds of millions and thinks exercise depletes your body's energy, he's telling coal miners to get different jobs, to make little cell phones and things. The same jobs he mocked them for not wanting. When Trump said he'd end the war on coal, he meant on coal companies, not on coal miners. The companies get to cut safety and maximize profit. The workers get their bodies destroyed, and then they're told that they're not disabled enough for help. Subscribe if you've enjoyed this video. Share it with a friend. Regulation is dropping soon, and we need to fight back. Share this with Trump voters who believed he'd help protect working people. Because here's the bottom line. Trump told coal miners they'd be miserable doing anything but mining. Now he's cutting their benefits and telling them to learn tech. He made mines more dangerous and then blamed them for getting hurt. He promised to fight for them, then fought for the companies that exploited them. That's his plan the whole time, and he's not going to stop there. We need people to work for workers, and we need to throw away the Trump administration when they're protecting billionaires and forcing others to suffer. Again, I am Loren P across all social channels. We'll continue doubling down on this story, and we'll be back with more.